In 1964, a 17-year-old named Randy Gardner stayed awake for 11 days straight. No drugs, no tricks, just willpower. By the end, he was hallucinating, unable to form sentences, and had lost the ability to identify objects by touch. But here's the strange part. He recovered, almost completely, which raises a question scientists still can't fully answer. What is sleep actually for? Because here's what most people assume. Sleep is basically just the body powering down, a maintenance mode, something evolution kept around because ancient humans needed to hide at night. A leftover feature, like an appendix, that modern life is slowly making obsolete. And that assumption is almost completely wrong. Sleep is not your brain going quiet. Sleep is your brain doing some of the most important work it ever does. And what happens when you take it away is one of the strangest, most disturbing stories in all of biology. Let's start with what sleep deprivation actually does to a human being. After 24 hours without sleep, your cognitive performance drops to the equivalent of being legally drunk. Your reaction time slows. Your judgment weakens. Your emotional regulation starts to collapse. After 48 hours, your immune system begins pulling back. Your body starts producing fewer infection-fighting cells. And after 72 hours, something much stranger begins to happen. The brain starts generating its own experiences. Hallucinations, not mild ones. Full sensory events that feel completely real. Randy Gardner experienced all of this. By day 9, he couldn't add simple numbers. By day 10, he was having paranoid episodes. And yet, after sleeping for 14 hours, most of his function returned. Which sounds reassuring until you understand what was happening inside his brain the entire time. Here's what scientists now believe sleep is actually doing. While you're awake, your brain is constantly active. Neurons fire, connections form, waste products accumulate between cells. One of those waste products is a protein called beta-amyloid. You may have heard of it. It's one of the primary substances found in the brains of Alzheimer's patients, and your brain produces it constantly, every single waking hour. Sleep is when your brain cleans it out. In 2013, neuroscientist Maiken Nedergaard at the University of Rochester discovered what she called the glymphatic system. During sleep, the brain's cells actually shrink by around 60%, opening up channels between them. Cerebrospinal fluid floods through those channels, flushing out the accumulated waste, including beta-amyloid. The brain is essentially running a cleaning cycle every night, and when you skip sleep, the trash piles up. Which means every time you pull an all-nighter, you are making a specific biological trade. Short-term productivity for long-term neural health. And the research suggests that trade is much worse than most people realize. Chronic sleep deprivation, even mild amounts, accumulates damage that a single long sleep cannot fully reverse. But the strangest proof of what sleep does comes from a disease most people have never heard of. Fatal familial insomnia is a genetic condition carried by fewer than 40 families on Earth. It begins in middle age with mild sleeplessness. Then, the insomnia becomes total. The body stops sleeping entirely. What follows is a precise, terrible sequence. Hallucinations, dementia, complete physical collapse. Death, typically within 12 to 18 months. There is no treatment. There are no survivors. It is the only known disease where the direct cause of death is the inability to sleep. And it tells us something that no lab experiment ever could. Sleep is not optional maintenance. It is the process of keeping your brain alive. So why does the sleep deprivation conversation keep getting ignored? Partly because the damage is invisible and slow. A person running 5 hours a night doesn't feel catastrophic. They feel tired, manageable. The effects are gradual enough that the brain adapts its perception of normal. Studies have shown that chronically sleep-deprived people consistently underestimate how impaired they actually are. The worse your sleep gets, the less you notice it getting worse. There's also a cultural dimension to this. In many modern societies, exhaustion has become a status symbol. Sleeping less is coded as ambition. Grinding is rewarded. Rest is rebranded as laziness, which means humans are the only species on Earth that deliberately deprive themselves of sleep for social reasons. Every other animal sleeps when it needs to. We set alarms. And that's what makes the Randy Gardner story so strange to sit with. He survived 11 days without sleep and largely recovered. But recovery isn't the same as immunity. The fact that a teenager bounced back doesn't mean sleep is optional. It means young, healthy bodies are remarkably resilient. The real cost of sleep deprivation isn't usually dramatic. It's quiet. It's cumulative. It shows up years later in ways that can't be traced back to a single sleepless night. Sleep isn't a pause in your life. It's part of what makes your life work. Every memory you formed today will be consolidated and stored tonight. Every skill you practiced will be reinforced. Every emotional experience will be processed and filed. Your immune system will be rebuilt. Your brain will be cleaned. And tomorrow you'll wake up as a slightly different, slightly better maintained version of yourself. Or you won't, and the version of you that shows up will be running on debt. There's something quietly humbling about all of this. Humans have been awake longer and longer, stayed up later and later, convinced themselves that consciousness is the point and sleep is the interruption. But biology says something different. It says that what happens when you close your eyes might matter just as much as everything you do with them open. And somewhere in a lab right now, scientists are still trying to understand exactly why. Which means the question Randy Gardner accidentally asked in 1964 is still the right one. What is sleep actually for? We're getting closer, but we don't fully know yet.